أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل أعوذ برب الفلق من شر ما خلق ومن شر غاسق إذا وقب ومن شر النفاثات في العقد ومن شر حاسد إذا حسد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل أعوذ برب الناس ملك الناس إله الناس من شر الوسواس الخناس الذي يوسوس في صدور الناس من الجنة والناس. The last three surahs or chapters of the Holy Quran, which begin with Qul, have a very special significance. Qul is also used elsewhere to indicate a certain message, or which delivers, I should say, a certain message, this Qul, to the whole mankind. When you say Qul, and that Qul is repeated, it means that say which follows and continue to say and convey the message to others. Receive the message from one end and deliver the message from the other end. Don't just receive and contain what you have been told. Further distribute. It is in fact a picture of مِمَّا رَزَقْنَاهُمْ يُنْفِقُونَ, which has been painted by the word Qul. In the beginning of the Holy Quran, you have read that the true believers have a very special quality, that is مِمَّا رَزَقْنَاهُمْ يُنْفِقُونَ. Whatever they receive from Allah by way of bounty, they do not keep that bounty to themselves, but further distribute it. A flowing picture is drawn, as if a stream is constantly flowing, receiving water from one end and carrying it further on and on without fear of its ever having been exhausted. So anything which has a contact with an inexhaustible source and does not fear paucity or poverty and continues to deliver whatever it receives from one end is depicted in مِمَّا رَزَقْنَاهُمْ يُنْفِقُونَ. So here it is a repetition of the same, in fact. The whole of the Holy Quran has been recited almost entirely. And whatever you have drawn from this Holy Quran, you are told now to carry this message to the entire mankind. If that is true, if this is the meaning of Qul, then it should also imply that the verses which are carrying the message of Qul, or the verses following Qul, should contain a gist of the whole of the Quran. And this is exactly what has been expounded by many scholar of renown. Hazrat Muslim Maud has also explained these verses in this manner, that particularly the last three. In fact, you should also include Qul Ya Ayyuhal Kafirun in this list. Include that and almost the entire message of the Holy Quran is repeated in nutshell in these 4 surahs. So this is why it is said that the Surah Al-Faatiha is the mother or the opening chapter of the Holy Quran, and those surahs which begin with Qul, they are the concluding chapters of the Holy Quran. So it is required of a Muslim to repeat and to convey the message to the whole world, the message which he has received already by way of reciting the Holy Quran, and which in nutshell is being repeated now. This is the import of the verses beginning with Qul. So the 3 important verses, which according to some authorities are in fact the carrier of the message, they are the last 3 ones. Qul huwallahu ahad. The first surah of the 3 is called Surah Al-Ikhlas, or Tafreed, or Tajreed, and also some other names are given to this surah. This is surah which defines the oneness of Allah in a manner as it has never been described by any chapter in any book other than the Holy Quran, by any religion. Islam stands alone in this beautiful description, comprehensive to the degree that it doesn't leave anything out, and excludes also at the same time all the possible misunderstandings about the concept of God or concept of oneness. So, Kul huwallahu ahad, Allahu samad, lam yalid wa lam yulad wa lam yakul lahu kufuwan ahad. These four verses encompass all that can be or should be said about the oneness of Allah. Huwallahu ahad. Say, that is Allah, the one. Why didn't the Holy Quran say, Qulillahu ahad? A hoa is added in between Kul and Allah. This is called Zamir-e-Shan. One reason for its having been added is to draw one's attention to the greatness of Allah. When you say it is that Allah, it means that He's too great, too big. Wake up. Don't take it lightly. Whatever the statement which is to follow is a statement to be taken very seriously. So this is why Huwa is added, which means Zamir-e-Shan, something which draws your attention to the greatness of the thing to follow. And there are other reasons also, but we'll be rather brief because we have very little time at our disposal. Qul huwallahu ahad. Ahad means one, but there are other words for depicting the sense of oneness in Arabic, like wahid. So what is the difference between wahid and ahad? That should be understood. Why ahad has been chosen here and why not wahid? Wahid, in fact, is the first of the numbers. When you say wahid, that means that is one which can be followed by others. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So wahid is the beginning letter of the counting system. The beginning letter is wahid. And beyond that, there can be any number, unlimited number. But ahad has a quality of an end to it. When you say ahad, there is nothing beyond. The only one, and it ends up there. So both these words have their own special quality describing certain features or certain connotations of singleness. When you say wahid, naturally, when you say ek, concept of two, when you say one, the concept of two also emerges from that one. But when you say unique, the concept of a second one does not appear. So this is the anomaly between Wahid and Ahad. They both have their advantages and both have certain meanings to depict which the other fails. But this disadvantage of not having been mentioned, this disadvantage of not having mentioned Wahid and only to have adopted Ahad is quite effectively offset by what is to follow in this surah, which I'll explain later on. But let's first understand Ahad in some detail. Ahad is the one to the exclusion of all others. There is none after him. There is no other like him. He is the one person in the field, no competitor, just alone. That is the meaning of Ahad. So Ahad also means that so much alone that there is nothing of any sort apart from him. If there is in totality, in its consummate meaning, there is something Ahad, it will exclude every other creation. So Ahad in fact describes that state of God's existence when nothing else exists. He is the only one. So that shows that the process of creation has not yet taken place. That being, which in some states is found to be so alone, so much alone, that there is nothing beside him. It doesn't mean that there is nothing besides him of his own character or of his own class, but nothing whatsoever. So when you consider this meaning of Ahad, the philosophy, the Hindu philosophy of things having coexisted with Allah from eternity is also rejected totally and entirely. Because if Ahad means one to the exclusion of everything else, then there can't be anything at all to be in coexistence. Now here there is an objection. If Allah is one, then how do we see so many things? Man and, there's so many species of life that you can't count them. And so many qualities to each life that you can't count them. So many aspects to a quality that you can never encompass. Go on analyzing things and new horizons open up before you. New vistas appear. So there is an endless quality to existence, endless number to existence, apart from God, and God we cannot observe directly. So whatever we observe, to that observation, there is a limitless number and limitless quality. So how can we say that Allah is Ahad? There is nothing but Allah. This question was once pondered by a companion of Hazrat Masih Maud alayhi salatu wasalam. And he was wondering why Allah was Ahad while there are so many. And it was in fact the same question which was raised by Ghalib, कि तुझ बिन नहीं कोई मौजूद, फिर ये हंगामा है खुदा क्या है? Is it गर्चे तुझ बिन, जबके तुझ बिन, yes. जबके तुझ बिन नहीं कोई मौजूद, फिर ये हंगामा है खुदा क्या है? What else? That's, you remember only that much. Mahavanjam, all this universe, he goes on counting one thing after another. What is this and what is that and what is this and what is that? And kahan se aaye hain? What's that? You remember that? The stars and moons and sun, where have they come from? And what are flowers and what are animals and all this? So these are the questions which have been agitating the minds of both philosophers and poets and other people as well. So the answer to that, which was given to him by Allah while he was pondering, he was a very, very pious man and who would very often receive the answers to his queries quickly, immediately. So immediately he went, when he pondered over it, he went into a kashf and saw in the vision that he was a small pupil studying in a school, in a classroom. And Allah was the teacher. And he was standing by the blackboard and holding a chalk in his hand and teaching him something. So Allah wrote 1 on the blackboard and said, "What is it?" So this pupil, he said, "That is 1." He said, "Okay." So he wrote a 0 down below somewhere. And he said, "What is this?" He said, "A 0." He wrote another 0. "What is this?" He said, "A 0." Then he wrote another 0 and went on adding zeros until the whole space was filled with zeros. So he picked out 1 0 and fixed it on the right hand side of 1 and said, "What is this?" He said, 10. Added another 0 and he said, "What is that?" He said, "It is 100. So he added another 0 and said, "No, what is this?" He said, 1000. Until all the numbers which he could remember were finished. And he couldn't say more to it, couldn't add more to it. So then he woke up suddenly and realized that the answer had been given. Everything derives its existence from Allah. Nothing can exist on its own. That is the meaning of Ahad. He is alone, by himself. And if he were alone, he would not require anything else to be. But everything else which comes into existence springs from his energy, whatever you call, energy is not the proper word, but springs from him. And it stays as long as it is on the right side of Allah. And if it changes sides, even if it appears to be there, it loses its significance and meaning. That was also the second message given to that companion of Hazrat Masih Maud alayhi, that add zeros to the wrong side of 1, they won't mean anything anyway. But add them to the right side, then they will mean. So the true meaning of existence, the true significance of existence is if you're rightly attached to your God and truly. But the general significance is that whatever there is, which appears to be, only draws its strength from Allah and has no independent existence. So that is Ahad. Allahu Samad. What is the meaning of Samad? The meaning can be understood if you understand the word from which it is derived. Samdun. Samdun is a rock which is very lofty, so lofty that no flood can deluge it, no flood can make it disappear. And also it is powerful enough to stay, to survive floods. Now, conjecture a situation where a flood has deluged everything else, only the top of a rock is to be seen. And all types of life gather round, go to the top and push there until the flood has subsided. They can't live but with the help of that lofty rock, which gives them support and sustenance at the time when they cannot survive but with the help of that rock. That is the situation which can be visualized. And when you are sure that that flood cannot destroy that rock, and it will positively survive all trials and all tribulations, that is samad. So everything depends on samad. Samad does not depend on anything for survival or for any other aid or help. So when at the time of crisis, things converge to the one God, and only He can give them support and sustenance. And without His support, they cannot survive. That is samad. And He can survive without the support of any other thing. In fact, everything is dependent on Him, and He is not dependent on anything else. This is samad. So there is also a quality of oneness in this, uniqueness, that not only is He one, but when you appear to see, when you begin to see other beings, and your concept is confused, you see more than one, even then, times would come in your life when you will see that the existence of other things were just spurious. They were not substantial things, they were shadows. And when destruction threatened, only it was God who could save them at that time, and they could not survive independently. So a repeated reminder that you are nothing is given by the quality of samad, the attribute of samad. All is Allah and nothing else is. And if you forget it, times may come in your own life when you will be threatened. And unless Allah saves you, nothing will be able to save you. And if you run away from Allah, it would not make any difference to Allah. That is the quality of samad. And it also has a uniqueness to it. Nothing else is like this. Lam yalid walam yulad. Now we're talking of all this in space. Lam yalid walam yulad carry the subject to the past as well as to the future. This state of Allah's non-dependence or independence has been from the time immemorial, from eternity, and will continue to be into eternity. That is to come. You can visualize any time, but still you will find Allah in the same state. If you are born out of something, then you depend on Him. In your past, and if you give birth, then you depend on your offspring in future, because He carries your qualities to the future. Also, at the same time, you do not remain one. If you are given birth, you have been given birth by something which has given qualities to you. So how can you claim to be one? And if you have imparted your qualities to something else, you have given birth to a child, which means you have imparted your qualities to another being, then you do not remain one. So it is the negation, this lam yalid walam yulad, is the negation of any possibility of there being any gods other than God, anyone who can share in His qualities, either in the past or in the future. So that shows that a God who is one, a God who is samad, has always been one, has always been samad in the past, and will so remain in the future for all times to come. That is one message of lam yalid walam yulad. And another message is that, but before I describe that, let me describe another connotation of the word qul. Then you'll understand it better. Qul also indicates that the message which is given to you must be carried through generations. It is not only that you convey this message to the living people, but also it means that convey this message on and on to the coming generations. So if a thing has to carry an import for the future, or for a longish future far removed from your time, then the word kul will convey that sense. That the message now we are going to give you has some imports which you do not know at present, but in future they will appear before you. And you will require this message very much. So don't let it be forgotten. Remember it. Kul means remember it. And go on conveying the same message to the future generations, so that when the time comes, then the import of that message is understood and that message is of avail to you in future. Now, Lam Yalid wa Lam Yulad has a message for the future, a time when Islam will come into conflict with Christianity. It is the Christianity of all the religions which stands out in the belief that Allah has given birth to a child or another God. So this is why, again, the order has been changed here to have this connotation. Some people raise this question that Allah, Qur'anic Kareem is Fasiyo Baligh. It should have said Lam Yulad first, because one is born first, then he gives birth. So it would have been in the fitness of things to have adopt this order. Lam Yulad wa Lam Yalid. But this is wrong. Because when the whole message is delivered to you, then you will understand that Lam Yalid should have been mentioned first and not after Yulad. Because the Christians do not believe that God was given birth. They only believe that he gives birth, or he can give birth, and he has given birth. So the point of issue, the point of variance is this: whether God can give birth or not. Whether God was given birth is not at all debatable. It is agreed between both Christians and Muslims that God was never given a birth, but they claim that Allah gives birth. So this is refuted. And because kul means that a great fight is to take place, a great war is to take place, removed in time, farthest removed in time from your time. And be prepared for it. Don't forget this message. Remind generation after generation to come that you get yourself prepared for the ultimate and final fight on behalf of Islam with Christianity. So this is the message of Lam Yalid, that we declare that any religion which claims that Allah has given birth is false, and prepare yourself to fight it out. But with what? What is the argument? It is just a claim, apparently. Lam Yulad is the argument. If you analyze it further and minutely, you will be surprised to find that Lam Yulad provides argument for the statement of Lam Yalid. Lam Yalid means Allah has not given birth. So those who believe and claim and profess that Allah has given birth, they also believe at the same time that Allah was not given birth. Allah was not born. So that quality of God, not being born or not capable of being born, is agreed by them. So there is a paradox. If God cannot be born, how can he give birth to a God? Because the moment a God is born, then the first God is negated. Because then he is also born, or can be born, in theory at least. So the claim of Christianity has a paradox. In one breath, they say God can give birth and has given birth. At the same time, they believe in the other breath that God was never born. It is against the quality of God to be born. So they come into contradiction with each other. So this is why it is repeated. Lam yalid wa lam yulad. And waw here can also be understood to be halia. How can he give birth while he is not given birth? So a thing which has no quality of birth attached to it, it has never inherited the quality of giving birth. How can it give birth to? Because it does not have the intrinsic value of giving birth. So the argument also is contained in this short verse. وَلَمْ يَكُنْ لَهُ كُفُوًا أَحَدٌ. Now, lam yakul lahu kufuwan ahad. And now, before this, let me point out that, as I said to you earlier, ahad means the last, in one sense, that beyond that there can't be anything. But it can be subdivided. Wahid cannot be subdivided because it is the beginning of the count. If Wahid could be subdivided, then that would be one, the part of Wahid. Suppose you say one to a piece of thing which can be subdivided into three. So if it is subdivided into three, then that one will not be the one. But one part of that would be the one. You will start your count backward from there again, as if retreating your steps and recounting the whole thing because you misunderstood the thing. You thought this was the beginning. Before that, there was nothing. So this is one, because one is the count of the lowest order in Arabic and in every other language too. So when you say one, it means the beginning. And when you say ahad, when you say wahid, it means the beginning of things. Below that, there can't be any count. That means that one cannot be subdivided. So the Christians believe that Allah is subdivided into three. So to refute Christianity, the word wahid should have been used. Because in other places, in the same context, the word wahid is used and not ahad. قُلْ إِنَّمَا أَنَا بَشَرٌ مِثْلُكُمْ يُوحَى إِلَيَّ أَنَّمَا إِلَٰهُكُمْ إِلَٰهٌ وَاحِدٌ فَمَنْ كَانَ يَرْجُو لِقَاءَ رَبِّهِ فَلْيَعْمَلْ عَمَلًا صَالِحًا. That wahid is used in the context of Christian faith. Because Hazrat Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alayhi wa sallam himself has told us that this chapter gives you opens a window for you for the future about the time when Dajjal will appear. And it says the first 10, as the tradition says, that the first 10 verses and the last 10 verses of this chapter apply to Dajjaliya, as it will be unfolded in future. So, as we understand, and it has been amply made clear to every Ahmadi by Hazrat Masih Maud alayhi wasalam, that Dajjal is no other being than the Christians. In one aspect, they have overpowered the whole world through their material gains. In another aspect, through their distorted religion, they have destroyed the concept of religion, and they appear to be one-eyed as far as their spiritual vision is concerned. So this is Christianity which is described in this chapter. And also, when you have a reference to the first 10 verses and the last 10 verses, it will be made manifest, but there is no time for me to explain it further. Let it suffice for the time being that wahid is the answer to Christianity. If Allah is Wahid, then He can never be subdivided, because He is the one to begin with, cannot be further divided into subsections. So this was not mentioned here. And how could you say this definition was complete? Only Ahad was mentioned and Wahid was not mentioned. So Lam Yalid Walam Yulad has explained all that could be explained by Wahid. So the requirement of Wahid has been fully met, amply met, by the mention of Lam Yalid Walam Yulad. So apart from other purposes which are served by this verse Lam Yalid Walam Yulad, one purpose that is served is the supply of the meaning of Wahid, which was the word or attribute which was not mentioned in this small surah. وَلَمْ يَكُنْ لَهُ كُفُوًا أَحَدٌ. Now, Allah is one that is fully understood. He is independent and everything else depends on Him. He seeks not and He is besought by all. And He has ever been so in the past and will always remain so in the future. That is understood. But is there a possibility of something like Him, not He to be repeated, but something like Him to be found elsewhere? When you say something like Him, I'll explain it further that it does not mean that no quality of God can be repeated in His creation, because every creation has the imprint of the Creator. So it is not to deny that possibility or to reject that possibility that Allah says, Lam walam yakul lahu kufuwan ahad. It is for another purpose that this word kufuwan is used here, and I'll explain. Kufu means something like Him, built on His pattern, which has a sense of equality as well. Whenever there is the word kufu used, it is not just similarity which it denotes. It is a sense of equality as well. So a thing can be different, but still can have kufu with you. A female can be different from a male. In their own species, in their own quality, they are different things. But they can have kufu. A female of the same quality, of the same standard as you are. So when you say that the qualities of God can be detected in His creation, that doesn't mean that kufus are created. Because anything which has been created cannot be the kufu of the Creator. So it shows that Allah can be seen in quality, in attributes, elsewhere, but only of His own creation, not independent. That is the meaning of Lam yakul lahu kufuwan ahad. So no miniature God, nothing like Him, can be found elsewhere holding independent qualities, which has not been created by Allah Himself. So that completes the whole picture of the unity of God in which a Muslim is supposed to believe. And it obviates the need to go to anyone else for any need. So, Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in has also been repeated in this Surah Al-Ikhlas. If everything requires Allah's help and Allah does not require anything else's help, if that quality is constant, has always been and will always remain, then you do not need to run to others, because you cannot be sure of anybody to be able to give you support at the time of a certain crisis. The threshold of crisis can rise, and there is no guarantee against a a crisis not rising beyond a certain threshold. So when everything in itself is precarious, no guarantee can be given to the existence, independent existence of anything else. So if you seek help from such transient beings, a time may come that they will roam along with you. They will not be able to support you. So the only sure being which can be of any avail to you at any time of crisis is Allah and Allah alone. In the next two chapters, the same subject is carried in converse. When you forget the message of Surah Al-Ikhlas, or you you drift away from the oneness of Allah, then what may happen? There are many dangers which you will face the moment you begin to shift away from the unity or oneness of Allah's existence, or your concept of His oneness. All these dangers are now mentioned in two categories, in two chapters which are to follow, and they are called Muawwazatain. Now, one thing I forgot to mention in the beginning is that all these chapters have been revealed in Mecca. Remember this. Although some authorities declare to the contrary, among them some noteworthy authorities as Ibn Abbas. Even he claims that these chapters were revealed during the period of Medina, not during the period of Mecca. But authority as good as he, and authorities senior to him in age, like Ibn Masud, they declared positively that these chapters were revealed to Hazrat Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alaihi wasallam in early Islam, very early Islam. They are in fact one of those chapters which revealed earliest. So because Hazrat Ibn Masud is a very old companion and a very senior companion of Hazrat Rasul Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam, so if there is a debate on the question of time, his opinion will carry weight, because a child who is born during Mecca, how can he say that that thing was not revealed during Medina? Now, if he's born during Medina, how can he say that something which is told to have been revealed during Mecca was not revealed during Mecca? He was not there. So when he clashes with his senior in time, while they both hold the same status in authority, then the junior partner will, of course, be defeated. So Ibn Masud's version carries weight, his opinion carries weight, not only with Muslims but also with the non-Muslims. So, for example, Mir also agrees with Ibn Masud and says that these three chapters were revealed in the very early part of Islam. Noldike or Noldike, I don't remember the exact pronunciation. What is Noldike?
Noldike.
Noldike. It's the German word.
Noldike.
Noldike. I see. It's difficult for me to pronounce the German, but anyway, it will pass. Noldike, the German Orientalist, he also supports this view positively that these chapters were revealed in Mecca. But he doesn't say in the first year or the second, he says in the fourth year. The Meccan portion, the Meccan part of Huzur Akram sallallahu alaihi wasallam's history is divided into three portions: the first, second, and the third. So this is also attributed by Noldike to the first portion of the revelation, that is during the first 4 years. This is significant because I won't be able to explain the significance here, but later on, this is very important for us to believe and to understand that these chapters were revealed during Mecca and not during Medina. قُلْ أَعُوذُ بِرَبِّ الْفَلَقِ مِنْ شَرِّ مَا خَلَقَ وَمِنْ شَرِّ غَاسِقٍ إِذَا وَقَبَ. Say and continue to convey the message to all others of the present time and of the times to come. This is the meaning of Qul. A'udhu bi Rabbil Falaq. I seek refuge in the Lord of the morning or the dawn. This is how the Falaq is translated. But it is not a comprehensive or true translation. It doesn't depict the whole picture which is carried by Falaq. Falaq is a phenomena of a sort of birth, opening up, rendering a part of a thing and giving birth to a new creation from within. This is the phenomena of Falaq as described by the Holy Qur'an itself. Inna Allaha faliqul habbi wan nawa yukhrijul hayya min al mayyiti wa mukhrijul mayyiti min al hayy. Zalikumullahu fa anna tufakun. Faliqul isba'. There is only one meaning of Falaq, according to the Holy Quran. The Lord of the dawn is not the entire meaning. That dawn is only a phenomena. And that phenomena is shared by other such phenomena, such as sprouting of the seed or falling apart of a stone and a new sapling emerging from it, or falling apart and dividing of an ocean into two parts, fanfalaqa, that is, so that a part of the ocean fell on one side and part on the other, and from in between Moses could go across safely. That is also the same process. So falaq means something which falls apart, and the one who brings that process, causes that process, is faliq. Not just falls apart, but falls apart to give way to something. A new emergence is followed. So Rabbul Falaq means, Qul A'udhu bi Rabbil Falaq means, we seek refuge in our Lord who creates things and causes new births to take place from a past state. That shows that except for Allah, every other state is transient. And new things emerge from every other state. And there is one Faliq, and everything else is mafluq. Allah is the one who is constant. All that you observe in the universe is inconsistent and inconstant. And new shapes, new beings emerge from those, but not automatically. If you see, for example, a seed sprouting into a sapling, you must remember, Inna Allaha faliqul habbi wan nawa. The process of falaq does not take place of itself. There is an outside being which is faliq, which causes that process to take place. So here it says, A'udhu bi Rabbil Falaq. I take refuge in the owner, in the proprietor of that process, in his being, under his cover. Min sharri ma khalaq, from the ills that may follow out of that process. Now, why the good points are not mentioned here and only the ill point is mentioned and a totally negative approach is taken? As I reminded you earlier, when you travel away from oneness of Allah, then there are hazards on your way, and you are being warned against those hazards. So these two surahs which follow have exactly the same style. Traveling away from Surah Al-Ikhlas into the hazards of life, into the hazards of all that is ungodly. That is what is described by the chapters following, that is Surah Al-Falaq and Surah An-Nas. And the future dangers to mankind are particularly described in these two surahs. It also tells you that everything which is created for good purpose, if you misuse it, you should not take it lightly. It can kick back. It can hurt you. So everything which is good should not be taken lightly, should not be misused, because everything is created for a certain usage. And whenever you misuse it, the shar or the evil that follows is your responsibility. So you cause evil to grow out of goodness. That is the message. Allah causes the phenomena of falak to take place for the purpose of goodness. Because if Allah is the creator and is one, all that He creates must carry His imprint. And that imprint has to be good, because Allah is good. There is no other creator. So the idea or the philosophy of there being two gods, one of evil and one of goodness, is also rejected by this verse. There are no two gods, one of evil and one of goodness. Only there is one God who creates. And because He is good, and the creation must carry the imprint of the creator, so everything which is created is good. Yet, you can meet some evil out of that if you go away from that one God who is the creator. You break your contact with Him and begin to misuse His creations, then there is nothing but evil for you. Now, despite the fact that you are responsible, still everything is not lost. Everything is not irretrievable. That creator of yours is so kind and so beneficent that every time you make mistakes and missteps and run into evil, then Allah will remind you, still there is time for you to come back to me. That is the message of A'udhu bi Rabbil Falaq. That I have committed mistakes, I deserve the full punishment, yet, O Lord, I seek refuge in you. I want to return to your oneness. So when you return to the oneness of Allah, then the evil part is automatically shed off. You leave it behind you when you go back to your Allah. So Allah encompasses the goodness. That is again the message is repeated. From the shar, the evil of creation, you can't run away to the extent that you run away from the whole creation, because you are yourself a part of the creation. You can only run away from creation in essence. And when you run away from the creation of Allah to Allah's refuge, then you do not break your contact with creation entirely. Only a contact is renewed through Allah. You remain into contact with creation as Allah wants it to be done. And Allah wants that contact to be made. That is refuge of Allah. And when you do that, you are saved from the evil consequences of your own misdeeds. That is the message conveyed by Qul A'udhu bi Rabbil Falaq min sharri ma khalaq. Wa min sharri ghasiqin idha waqab. If you go on repeating your mistakes, you can reach a stage when you, by your own misdeeds and your own follies, can change a day into night. This is the message given here now. This is the greatest warning to mankind. In this context, Falaq would mean the appearance or the dawn of Islam. It tells you that Allah has created Islam. Islam has dawned upon you. The light has come. Ja'al haqqu wa zahaq al-batil. That is the message. And no darkness is left. But if you break away from the unity of Allah and begin to call partners beside Him or turn to others apart from God, then this light will begin to leave you. And this day will end into a darkness which will overpower everything, which will encompass everything. Because ghasiq means a night which covers almost everything. And waqaba means when it has deepened. A night which has taken full charge of everything. A night which has encompassed everything, which has deepened in darkness. That stage can be reached. So, even then, the hope is not lost. If you enter the dark ages after the appearance of Islam, after the first 3 centuries of light, which have been opened up by Rabbul Falaq, and by your mistakes, you see the day end into a night, even then if you take refuge in Allah in all sincerity, the refuge will be not denied you. It will be given you. And that night, what will it bring? It will bring all the evil forces which are rampant during the darkness, under the cover of night. And the most evil forces which are mentioned here, which are active during the darkness, are those which break ties. Because sharr nafasat fil uqad means those evil forces which breathe into knots to break them. If you break the knots, which means you break the ties. So that is the destructive force. And here again a reference is made to an early verse of the Holy Qur'an, in which the fight of goodness and evil is mentioned by way of a parable, or not a parable, but by way of an illustration. Satan is described to have been born out of fire, which destroys the process of life and breaks away, disintegrates. And teen, out of which Adam is told to have been born, is exactly the opposite of this phenomenon. It gives birth to new life. It cements ties. And through that cementation and through that process of giving birth, new life comes into being, and the life flourishes in teen. So this is demonstrable to you in every form. It is so apparent. When you observe nature, you will see that it is only the teen which can, in which life can survive. Put fire to teen and dry it up, dry the soil up, and it will turn into a dry clay, and all the phenomena of life will be ebbed out or will be totally destroyed and annihilated. So mention is made to this, that when something begins to break away the ties and coherence is replaced by discordance and deterioration into relationships, that is the first and the most important evil child of the night against which we are warning you. Forces will be active then to cause hatred among mankind. One type of people and another type of people. One race and another race. One religion and another religion. Class against class will be pitched. So that night is going to open up that phenomena for you of creation of hatred and breaking of ties. Servant will be incited against the master, and the master will be incited against the servant. Whites will be incited against the blacks, and the yellows will be incited against the whites, and so on and so forth. There will be no end to breaking away. That is the phenomena of min sharri naffasati fil uqad. Now return to the first surah, that is Qul huwallahu ahad, and you'll understand what I meant when I said the converse is now described. Unity is broken. All that unifies is godly. All that disintegrates is ungodly. And this integration is the phenomena of a natural outcome of believing in more than one God. So that night also takes its root from that verse, Lam Yalid wa Lam Yulad. It is the converse of that. Allah says Allah is one. There is no Trinity. Allah cannot give birth. But ultimately a night will come to settle upon earth where people will begin not in oneness but in threeness of Allah, in the Trinity of Allah. And that will not be the end of it. Then the forces of disintegration will be on the rampant, and they will begin to destroy all unity between man and man of every type.